Alright, so you find yourself on this project here, Interactive History, Suffragist Starter Project, and you want to add your character to this project. First of all, let's talk about what this project is and how it works. Then we'll talk about adding our own characters to it. Um, Now then, the first thing that we're going to do here is go ahead and click the flag. Let's check out this project. This project allows us to basically hover over characters and they light up as we're mousing over them. And when we click on them, they basically start speaking or describing who they are to the player.
Hi, I'm Lucy Stone, an activist and lecturer. I'm a suffragist. We must make it keenly felt and clearly understood that the taxation of women without representation is as great an injustice as was that done to men in the olden time.
And as you can hear and see, a text box appears on screen describing who Lucy Stone is, while a recording is playing describing us verbally what the text says, and maybe adding any other informalities that you guys want. The same thing applies to Frederick Douglass. I'm Frederick Douglass, an orator and newspaper editor, a suffragist. Every man is himself, and some of us say that every woman is herself. Therefore, she should have a voice in the government, as nobody can be represented by anybody else. And as you heard there, he sort of says his lines, and a little text box appears on screen in case anybody can't hear or anybody can't read. The recording is playing for them. Now then, let's talk about how the code works. So we're going to go ahead and click See Inside, and the first thing that you should do in this project is go ahead and create a remix of it. Remixes allow you to save projects as your own. You should be mostly familiar with it already, but it's essentially saving this project as yours, and the creator can, of course, see what you end up sharing as a final product. Make sure you don't use this feature to copy projects, but it is a great feature if you want to build off of someone's ideas. So I'm very comfortable remixing and sharing it. So, alright, now, the first thing I'm going to do when I remix this project is go ahead and rename it to whatever historical character that I'm trying to add to this. First of all, I see Frederick Douglass and Lucy Stone over here. The character I'd like to add is William Lloyd Garrison. And so what I'm going to do is keep most of the title here, Interactive History, but after the dash, instead of saying Suffragist Starter Project Remix, I'm going to delete everything after that and simply put the name of my person. William Lloyd Garrison. Alright, once I've got my name there, I'm all good. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at this code and apply it to some new characters. Now first of all, what does this code do? Well, we've got about 3 major pieces here, as well as a few broadcast and receive setups. Let's talk about what they do. First off, we've got this little one flag click to go to X blank, Y blank, set size to 50% and show. This is setting it up so that all our characters look relatively the same and fit on the screen. As you can see, Frederick Douglass and Lucy Stone are around the same size and on their own locations on the screen. And so the first thing you have to do here is sort of set up their starting locations, make them match in size, and make sure that they're actually showing on my screen. Now, over on the right over here, we see a separate code. This one's a little if statement under a forever loop, and it simply makes characters light up when we hover over them. As you can see, on a forever loop, if we're touching the mouse pointer, then we're either going to set brightness effect to 20, or if we're not touching it, we'll set brightness effect to 0. Now the brightness effect is simply what we use to make it obvious that you're about to select a character. And this way, as you're hovering over someone, there's no confusion whether or not you're trying to click someone or not. So that's sort of just there for clarification. It's not the most necessary thing, but it's recommended that everyone has it there. So just include that. And it's pretty much a direct copy. There's no need to get too much into that. Now here's where things get interesting. Uh, at some point in your project, you're going to want to add when this sprite clicked. This way, when we click on an object, like Frederick Douglass here, or Lucy Stone here, they sort of zoom in on the screen, or we zoom in on them. We put most of our main focus on them, and then they can say their lines and do their parts. Now, first of all, we're going to kick this off with a when this sprite clicked. That simply activates our code. After that, we broadcast a message called hide all, which is going to hide all the other sprites in this project while Lucy Stone is speaking. We're going to, of course, make sure that Lucy Stone is showing. And then we use some variables over here. Now, these variables, you don't have to worry too much about them. They basically remember where Lucy Stone used to be, so that later we can go back to those same positions. Once we store that information, we can then glide to the center of the screen. We can make our character a little bit bigger. We can switch up the backdrops, start some audios,
Hi, I'm Lucy Stone,
and add all the script in a giant say block, which will most likely go off your screen. When they're done speaking, or when the say block is finished, you simply revert them back to their original size. In Lucy Stone's case, this is a size of 50. You glide back to your original X and Y position, which we stored before we moved. And then we broadcast this message called homepage, which simply makes all our characters reappear since we hid them earlier. The last bit of code that you'll need in each of these characters are simple messages that say, when I receive homepage, we should show, and when I receive hide all, we should hide. This way, we can make characters hide or show when we start or stop speaking. Alright, so now we've reviewed most of the code here. We get a general idea of how this works. The next thing that we're going to do is here is make our own character using the same code. Now before we add our character, we of course need a picture for them. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is simply go ahead and grab myself a new character. Now this part's quite difficult because normally you just go ahead and click choose a sprite and that'll bring you to the sprite library. That said, there are no real historical figures in this sprite library here. Scratch isn't too sophisticated with their images, they just want to give you something to start with. And so what we're going to have to do is find our own images. Now to do this, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab, making sure that I keep my Scratch tab open on another screen. I'm going to go ahead to a new tab over here, and I'm simply going to search for my character, which is William Lloyd Garrison. Now, as we can see, when we search up William Lloyd Garrison, we get some nice pictures of him over here, and we get a few Wikipedia links and some others telling us a little bit more about this person. If you guys want to do some research, then you guys can definitely click on those links. However, what we want here is to go straight to the images. So at the top here, I'm going to select the Images tab, and this will show me just a bunch of pictures of William Lloyd Garrison. Now, I'm going to find a picture that's relatively square, so I have to do less editing on it. If you find a rectangular picture like this, you might actually have to end up editing it a lot to make it a lot more square. And so try to find one that's sort of square shaped like this. And once you find it, we're going to do a little right click and click Save Image As. Using that option allows you to name this character. And later you can use this name to find him when you're trying to add him to Scratch. Now, in case anybody does not know how to use or how to do a right click, it really depends on what type of mouse you're using. If you've got a regular mouse like you see on the right side of the screen over here, there's two buttons. The first one is on the left side of your scroll wheel, and the second one is on the right side of your scroll wheel. Normally you click with the left side, however, a right click is this other button over here, and it gives you some special pop-up options, as you can see. On the other hand, if you're working with a touchpad, and a touchpad is an example of a touchpad is on the left over here. If you're working with a touchpad where it's sort of attached to your keyboard, you're instead going to do a two-finger click. Normally you just press the left button, or you just do a normal one-finger click. In this case, what you'll want is a two-finger click where your fingers are spread apart a little bit. That just makes it easy for the computer to tell that you are clicking with two fingers and are trying to do a right click. Yeah. Besides that, you simply find your image, you right click, you can click Save Image As, and type in the name for it. Once you're ready, you can hit Save or Enter, and you should see a little download happen somewhere on your computer. Alright, so we've got our picture. Now we're going to go head back into Scratch and add this picture to our project. To add a new sprite with a picture of your choice rather than one of Scratch's sprite pictures, we can simply hover over the Choose a Sprite option and go up to the Upload Sprite choice. And when we click it, we get this little pop-up option showing us all the downloads that we've ever made. Now, luckily, we named our photo earlier. Mine is called William Lloyd Garrison, and so I can see it right over here. If you can't immediately find it, you can also type in the name down here in the little search bar. And as you can see, it should pop up as one of your options. Now, everyone's file explorer looks a little bit different, but generally it looks something like this, where you've got a bunch of text you can select on, or you've got a few pictures, and you can actually see which picture you want. Either way, it's pretty straightforward, but it'll be a little bit different for everyone. Alright, and here we have William Lloyd Garrison. He is now in my Scratch project. Now, just like before, the first thing that we're going to do in this project is set them up in the right location and with the right size. As you can see, my other characters over here, Lucy Stone and Frederick Douglass, they're sort of in order and around the same size. We want to make sure William Lloyd Garrison fits that same style. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is grab a when flag clicked. This is going to start up my program. And immediately when we're started, the first thing that we're going to want to do is change our size. 100% is really too big here, so I'm going to try at 50%. And this is a little bit closer, but still not quite. So you'll have to play around with the numbers over here. In my case, it looks like a number around 28% will just about match Lucy Stone and Frederick Douglass. This may take some experimentation to get perfect, but eventually you'll see a size that looks right. Once you've picked a size, simply drag the person where you want him to go, and you should see his coordinates appear at the bottom right part of your screen. My guy, or my character over here, is at x 58 and y 61. Remembering these numbers, I can go over to the motion section and grab a go to x, y. And in these slots, I can type in the numbers 58 and 61, exactly as I see them down here. Sometimes the numbers will even be put there for you, so you won't have to do any typing. Now, no matter where I drag my character, and no matter what size he is, clicking the flag will reset him to the right location and the right size. The last thing I want to do here is make sure that he's showing. Alright, so setup code is complete. The next thing that we want to do is a little feature so that when we hover over these characters, they light up a little bit, or they become a little bit brighter. This just shows that we're actually mousing over them and they're something that we can click on. Now, in order to set this up, we're going to be using a little bit of forever looping, and the code looks like so. When the flag clicked, which will act as a trigger, we're going to run an if-else statement forever. This way, this if-else statement will always be activating and will always be updating to either true or false. Now, inside this if statement, we want to simply test if we are touching the mouse pointer. The touching mouse pointer block can be found in the sensing section. And this simply tells our character to follow the if statement if it's true, or if we're not touching the mouse pointer, go straight to the else statement. Now here's the tricky part, making the characters light up. In the look section, there's a block called set color effect to 0. Grab this block and put it in both sections over here. And rather than setting color effect, we want to set a brightness effect, which can be achieved by clicking on the word color to open up a drop-down box and selecting the word brightness. If we are touching the mouse pointer, we'll want to set brightness effect to 20, which is pretty bright, and if not, you can set brightness effect to 0. In some cases, you'll want to play around with these numbers, but in most cases, it'll work perfectly as is. As you can see, William Lloyd Garrison lights up very nicely when I mouse over him. Apart from that, this code does not do anything. It's simply aesthetics. It tells the player that, hey, this is something you could click on. Now for the more important part, how do we actually sense for click on these people? Well, we're going to start things off by going to the events section and grabbing a when this sprite clicked block. This will just sense for a click on its own. We don't have to do anything too special here. It'll activate our code when we click on the character. If you guys want to go ahead and code the rest yourself, or you know how it works, you could simply visit Frederick Douglass or Lucy Stone's code, and as we see here, all the necessary code is inside them. If the recap was enough for you, you could definitely code it on your own. However, if you want a step-by-step, here it is. Now, the first thing I want you to do when this sprite is clicked is broadcast a message called hide all. You don't need to worry too much about that, just know that whenever anyone receives this message, they will be hiding. And so this is essentially hiding all the other sprites on my screen. Alright, so we've hid all the characters. Now, the sad thing about this message is it will actually also hide this character. And so what we're going to want to do is immediately after we've finished broadcasting this message and all my characters are hidden, we're going to want to make this character reappear, specifically the one that was clicked. And so right after broadcasting hide all, this guy's going to reappear with a show block. Now this is where things get a little bit more tricky. What I'm going to do is head over to my variables section, and as you can see, I have two variables, original position X and original position Y. Now these ones are a little bit tricky, but they essentially are going to remember my current position, remember my starting position, and this way we can simply glide back to that position after we're finished moving our character. In order to make this magic happen, we're going to go ahead and grab two set blocks, setting my original Y and X positions. And rather than setting them to a certain number, which I'd have to type in myself, I can simply go to the bottom of the motion section and grab the circular, blue, X and Y position blocks, which tell the computer what its current position is. Example, I'm going to click on my character over here, and we should see all my characters hide, and origin position X and Y are set to 58 and 61, which is this character's current position. A little bit of technical scratch, you don't have to understand the code too well there, just know that that's what that bit of code does, it's pretty important. Following this, we're going to go to the motion section and grab a glide block, and I'm going to grab the glide block with coordinates that I can type in. Reason being, whenever I click on these characters, I want them all to glide down to this general area. Now, the location that you're going to want to type in here may vary slightly for some characters, but for this character, it'll be roughly negative 180 by negative 100. I'm going to give this program a shot, and it makes my character fly down to just about the right spot. As I said though, sometimes you'll need some adjustment here. In this case, he seems to be right about the right location, and all I'll have to do here to make him fit right is simply set size to something around 50. Which will also take some experimentation to figure out. Alright, so you've got your character set up in the right location. What's next? Well, now we're going to go ahead and set the scene. In order to set up your scene correctly, grab a switch backdrop to blank block. Now, depending on your person, you may have a different place than me, but for me and I think everyone watching this video, we'll be using the Woman's Tea Party as our backdrop, which will simply switch us over to the Faneuil Hall. Now, if you want to draw your own backdrop, you simply go over to the stage on the bottom right section of the screen. You go up to backdrops, and from here you can paint any backdrop that you need, or choose a backdrop if you have one from Scratch, if Scratch has one for you. Alright, so I'm back in William Lloyd Garrison over here. And the next thing that I need to do here is add a sound and a speech. Now then, I've actually written up my speech over here really quickly. It says, "Hi, I'm Lloyd Garrison, an editor of The Liberator." It goes on to talk or give a little quote, and I'll be repeating this in just a minute, so I'm going to cut myself off over here. But this is the speech that I'll be giving, and I recommend that you type one up now, either in a document or notepad, somewhere other than Scratch, because when you're writing with text in Scratch, if it goes off the screen, it becomes quite difficult to edit it. So I recommend building it somewhere else and then just copy-pasting it in. If you don't know how to copy-paste it, you can simply just type it in the text box. There won't be too much issues there. Now then, what is a little bit more difficult for some people, though, is recording sound. So let's talk about that. First of all, I'm going to open up Scratch again and go to the Sounds tab at the top left of the screen. This shows me a list of all the sounds that I have in this character. As you can see, there's currently nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and add a sound, not by pressing choose this round, but going up to the record option, so I can record myself speak. I'm going to go ahead and click record, and as you can see, it starts recording my voice. Now in some cases, you'll get a little pop-up asking you if you want to allow Scratch to use your microphone. You want to click yes, you do want to allow Scratch to use your microphone, otherwise they can't hear your voice, and we won't be able to do recording. Now, I'm going to bring up my speech on the side over here and have somewhere that I can read it off of, and I'm also going to click the record button when I'm ready. I'll be reading off the speech, and as you can see, it has started recording my voice. I can start whenever I'm ready. Hi, I'm William Lloyd Garrison, an editor of The Liberator. I am here as a woman writes for man, for the freedom of the sex as for the freedom of the slave. This meeting indicates the growth of this cause and should inspire us all. I finished my recording, so I went ahead and pressed the stop sign. Make sure you press the stop sign before anything else. Now, as you heard, I actually made a little bit of a mistake while I was talking. I'll be reading off the speech, and as you can see, it has started recording my voice. Lloyd Garrison. And there's a few things that I'll want to cut out here. What I might want to do is watch the video over a few times until I figured out where I want to cut from, and use these red bars over here to show which parts I want to keep and which parts I want to cut. Hi, I'm William Lloyd Garrison, an editor of The Liberator. I am here as a woman writes for man, for the freedom of the sex as for the freedom of the slave. This meeting indicates the growth of this cause and should inspire us all. I'm now done with my recording, so instead of clicking anywhere else like this X or out here, which will lose the recording, I'm going to go ahead and click Save, which is the only way to really save the recording here. You can name your recording at the top here. For example, I could name this William Lloyd Garrison, or you could leave it as recording 1. Either way works. Now, if you want to edit this, there's a few options to make it a little bit faster or a little bit slower, but I'm going to leave it as my own voice here, because I like the sound of myself speaking. Whenever I'm ready with my recording, though, I'm going to go down to right after I switch the backdrop in my code here, and simply add a start sound, William Lloyd Garrison, or recording 1, depending on which one you chose. This block simply activates a recording that you made in Scratch. Hi, I'm William Lloyd Garrison. Now, in addition to verbally speaking it and letting people hear my beautiful voice, they might need a text as backup. And so what I'm going to do is also touch a say block here and copy paste my speech into the say block. As you see, it went off the screen and it got a little bit glitchy, and that's what I mean by it's sort of hard to edit these sometimes. So keep that in mind when you're editing these speeches. Lastly, rather than saying this for 2 seconds, which is really fast for so much text, I might want to say this for a much longer time. Maybe 25 to 15 seconds would be good. Eventually, you'll finish writing your say blocks and you'll finish your recording up, and your project should look like this so far. Hi, I'm William Lloyd Garrison, an editor of The Liberator. I am here as a woman writes for man, for the freedom of the sex as for the freedom of the slave. This meeting indicates the growth of this cause and should inspire us all. He eventually finishes speaking, and I can continue my code. Now the last bit of code here simply requires him to get a little bit smaller, go back to his original location, and allow us to click on my other characters again. Now, to do this, once again, you can reference the other characters right after the text box here, but I'll go ahead and code it on screen with you as well. We're going to set our size back to the original value that we had before, a size of 26. I had to check for that one. A size of 26. Now this size will be different for all your characters, but since I initially started with size 26, I'm going to want to revert back to that size. Now, after that, we can simply grab another glide 1 second to x0, y0, and rather than worrying about what to type in here, we can actually use those variables that we set earlier. Original x position and original y position, or orig_pos_x for short. The last thing we've got to do here is broadcast a message called home, or homepage, to tell the computer that, oh, we're back on the homepage, we should be able to see all our characters again. As you can see, it works very nicely. So this character is now fully interactable. We can click on him to make him start speaking. There is an audio playing right now. I just went ahead and muted it so that I can continue speaking while the audio is playing. But the text box appears on screen, the audio plays, we can hear William explaining who this person is. And when he's done speaking, he'll go back to the center of the screen and let everyone else reappear. Now, the very last thing that you'll want to do to finish up these programs here are simply making it so that he works in relation to other people activating as well. Let's say we click on Frederick Douglass. As you can see, William Lloyd is actually still sitting there. He should be hidden right now. And so what we're going to do is set up a little broadcast and receive little receiving message system to make us hide or show depending on what page we're on. If we receive this message hide all, we're going to want to go to the look section and tell our character to hide. If we receive the message homepage, it means that all our characters should be showing because they should all be clickable. And so the last steps here are setting up the following messages. When I receive hide all, hide, and when I receive homepage, show. There you go. The code for your character is now fully functional. I can click on other characters, he will hide. I can click on him, and he will make others hide. Then they go ahead and say their messages, and after the messages are complete, they go back to the center of the screen, the backdrop is set up properly, and all our other characters reappear. Now, one visual change that we might want to add to this that I forgot to mention earlier is talking about their names. As you can see, Frederick Douglass and Lucy Stone, we know their names because they're right over there. Someone who didn't program George Floyd, though, someone who didn't program Frederick. On the other hand, someone who didn't program William Lloyd Garrison might not know that this is him. And so what we're going to do is head over to the costume editor, and add a text box. We can choose the color white because it's generally very visible, but you're going to want to make sure that the color you choose does not harm the background. Once I've chosen my color, I can simply place text on my screen by clicking somewhere and typing whatever I want. In this case, I want to type out his name. And on the next line, I'm going to want to type in the date. Birth to death. So 1805 to 1897. And this will be different for everyone. Sorry about that. 1879. So there we go. I try to make it line up properly. Maybe center this text if your name is really long. But once you've got it all set up, you can go ahead and put this text box anywhere that you want. Generally, you should make it a little bit larger so it's easier to read. And in some cases, you've got white things over here that make it hard to see the white text, and so you may even need to change the fill color of this slightly. Alright, so once you're done, you can go back to code, click Save Project, See Project page, double check that your project's working, and after you add in the notes and credits who you added, the name of who you added, you can simply click Share. Your teacher will later attach these all to the main project, and you guys can see it all in action at the end. Thanks for watching.